Quadratic functions look like these two graphs here. These are called parabolas. You can see they kind of look like U-shaped graphs. They're symmetrical. There is an axis of symmetry, which I talk about in another video, that goes through the middle, and the left side mirrors the right side of the parabola. So you can find something called a maximum or a minimum value just by looking at the graph. What you're looking for is what is the highest point or the lowest point of the graph, and depending on if your parabola opens up like this one or opens down like this one will determine whether it has a maximum or a minimum. So this first parabola, you can see that it's opening up, and you know this probably should have arrows on the end of these that will continue forever going up, which means there's not a highest point, but there is a lowest point right here. And so we want to know how low does this graph go. So here's how low it goes, and what you want to look at is that vertex, that ordered pair that is the lowest point. In this case it's a -1, -2. So how far down did the graph go? Because we're talking how far down, this up and down measurement, that's your y value. So this graph has a minimum at that -2. Your max or your min will be the y value of your vertex. Alright, the second graph over here, because it's opening down, you can see that it's got a highest point up here. So again, we want to kind of focus on the vertex. Let's see what that ordered pair is. The vertex is 1, 0, and the question is, how high does it go? Well, it goes all the way up to a 0. It doesn't go any higher than that. So your maximum will be equal to 0. So any graph that opens up will have a minimum, any graph that's opening down will have that maximum, and then how far down does the graph go or how far up does the graph go will be the y value of that vertex. Alright, so you can tell whether a graph is going to open up or down just by looking at the function, the equation. So this first one, you want to make sure it's in standard form first of all. We have y equals x squared minus 25. It's all about the a value. Remember, the a value we find in front of our x squared term, and the number in front here is a 1, so a equals 1. Because that's a positive number, I know that this graph is going to open up. It'll look something like this. So does the graph open up or down? It opens up. And how do we know? Any positive a value will open up. So because a is greater than 0, we know it's opening up. This next example is not in standard form. If you notice, we have this plus 4yx squared on the same side as the y. So we're going to want to go ahead and solve that for y. We'll subtract 4x squared from both sides. So we have y equals -4x squared plus x plus 1. And again, to tell whether the graph opens up or down, we look at the a value, so that's the number in front of the x squared. In this case, our a value is a -4, and because that a value is negative, this graph is going to open down. It's going to look something like this. So the graph opens down, and how do we know? Well, we know that because our a value is less than 0. It's negative.